Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone half hour. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts, hope you are well. Let's jump into Ladder Wednesday. Without further ado, so we are at the moment sort of chilling out around about rank 13 every Wednesday. We just jump on the ladder, I'll play up a few ranks, fit in 2 or 3 games or whatever works within a half hour, and we just take a look at A, the deck I'm playing at the moment, do a bit of analysis play by play around a few ladder games, and then B, have a look at our opponents, see what is going on just in terms of their side of the ladder as well. So you can see on the right hand side of my screen I have my deck. You can see it's a Control Warrior based on KitKat's Control Warrior. If you've tuned into this show fairly often, this will be no massive surprise to you. It will be fairly familiar as I have been rolling it for quite some time now with various tweaks. Now you may notice that this deck has got what someone call excessive levels of control. What others, someone actually in one show said, that's a slightly psychotic level of control. Now, why is it psychotic? Some people have said that having 2 Brawl is a little bit excessive. I agree with them. And 2 Cleave. You will also see some high level Control Warrior decks drop down to 1 Cleave. Certainly 1 Brawl. And similar, they will top up on Frothing Berserker, maybe Cochrane Elite, other cards to pad out that mid game. So this is really anticipating huge, horrible control. As a result, it suffers a bit in that mid game. It doesn't have huge attacking threats because it doesn't have 2 Frothing Berserker, which can put good pressure on, or the Cochrane Elite. And we see our Druid friend, Druid? He's not a Druid, he's a Warlock, and for he is a Warlock, we do verily know that because he has thrown down an Ancient Watcher, what does that tell us? When we go to basic Hearthstone concepts, and we've talked through it before, what can we tell from what cards our opponent played down? Our opponent is a Warlock, he has not thrown down loads of small minions, so he's probably not zooing, he's probably not rushing. If he's thrown down an Ancient Watcher, he is probably playing a Handlock. Now, for those of you not familiar, there we go. Now, the silence dropped in means that he silences and removes the Watcher text. So for 2 mana, he's suddenly got a 4 attack card. Nasty. What can I do? Well, I can armor up and draw a card. I can actually go hyper aggressive, which is what I'm going to do here, just to remove this threat. It's not ideal, but that could get very nasty if left. So the Handlock deck. The Handlock deck revolves around stacking up a lot of cards in the Warlock's hand, long story short, and then doing nasty things like playing early giants. The Mountain Giant, for example, costs less mana for each card you have in your hand. The Molten Giant costs less mana for every damage that your character has sustained, and then taking awkward cards like that Ancient Watch that we just saw. You can see the nice little silence he did there, a nice little combo. Silenced his own Ancient Watcher so that it could attack, and suddenly you've got a 2 mana 4 attack 5 health card. Very nasty indeed. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to try and get this situation a bit under control again. I'm going to have to swing away with my axe. I've taken, note that by turn 4, and our Warlock is going second, I've taken a nasty 10 damage already, but I've been very, very aggressive in going to control that Ancient Watcher. Why was I so aggressive on that Ancient Watcher? Well, I didn't have an execute. He could have dropped a Sun Fury Protector, perhaps a Defender of Argus. If that Ancient Watcher had become a tank, a taunting tank, as well as being able to attack, then that would have been a very nasty threat indeed early in the game. So I wanted to cut it off before it got too dangerous. So was it very aggressive? Yes. Correct play here. I've got 5 mana. The first thing I'm going to do is throw down the thing that lets me draw the card in shield block, and you can just see as a warrior I'm shield blocking up. I'm feeling good. I'm then just going to lob down an Armor Smith. Now, there's probably a reasonable shout there for me armouring up as well. I could just put more armour down. Putting this down, I might tempt him perhaps into killing it. He might soulfire it or something. I might be able to use it to tap one of his big minions for some damage if I draw an execute. So I just want to have a minion on the table so I feel as though I've got some kind of presence. And there we go, there is the Soulfire. He will discard a random card. I will get a clue. Siphon Soul. Okay, that's quite good. I'm happy he's got rid of that. Destroying a minion and restoring 3 health to my hero. That is his Warlock control later in the game. He will be able to remove any of my big minions for 6 mana. So I'm happy he's lost that. You know, the sort of table at the moment is still relatively even, and I can then throw down Cairn Bloodhoof. Now, Cairn Bloodhoof is a bit of an ugly legendary, and by ugly I mean he's very, very useful, very, very... Oh, and there's the second 2 Iron Beak Owls. Count him. Why was Cairn Bloodhoof ugly? Well, as soon as you kill him with that death rattle, you summon another 4/5, you summon his brother. and that is pretty nasty. Aggressive, a Sunwalker comes out, then a Mortal Coil. Our Warlock is playing very aggressively in terms of control. Ken Bloodhoof, if he had not been silenced, would have effectively been a 2-for-1, but you can see that even though I've not even attacked with Ken Bloodhoof, he's fulfilled a purpose. Another Soulfire has been used, 2 Soulfires I believe we've seen come out now, so we know that our Warlock opponent does not have 2 Soulfires. Card counting. Not blackjack, but quite useful. We also know he's lost a Sunwalker. We know that he's lost a I can't remember quite what it was called. The horrible Kill My Minion card that Warlocks have. So, we're already on turn 7. Am I ahead on health? Yes. Does he have one of those down? Yes. Is it time for me to start putting some pressure on? Absolutely. So I'm going to throw down Baron Geddon. Now, there might be better plays than Baron Geddon. I could have thrown down Gorehowl. I've got lots of armour. Gorehowl will have given me the ability to... I could still have killed that owl. I would have taken 2 damage to my hero, it's true, and then I would have had Gorehowl ready. I could have thrown down other cards next turn. But the reason that I threw down Geddon, it is a very aggressive play, but what it does is it immediately forces him into, instead of getting his own game set out mode, it sort of puts him on the back foot a bit. He has to try and control this card. If he leaves it, I do 7 damage to him next go, and then another 2 with the effect. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other characters. Now, Geddon is in this deck, or Geddon's use is generally against Swarm. And there we go, Leroy. I fully expect him to Leroy away my Geddon. There we go. That, Leroy, was his finisher. So he has been forced into using his Leroy Jenkins already. I'm happy with that. It takes a threat away from his deck. And you may notice that as I'm going along, I'm kind of... card counting is how I described it. I'm just keeping a track as to what our opponent here has been playing. Now that gives me more confidence when I come out and make some of my own plays. Right, what options have I got? Well, I don't need to brawl. A Gorehowl could be a very strong option here. Get myself some very good field position. The Shield Slam I'm going to hold. I would do 7 damage. That feels quite excessive. I don't really need to do that at this point in time. I've got the War Axe. That would do the removal job. I'm going to get Gorehowl out because I can then Grommash for a Whirlwind next go. So let's drop a Gorehowl. He might have an Acidic Swampooze or something else nasty, but I'm just going to use that straight to remove that. Tap him for a couple of damage. I've still got a couple of threatening minions. I am broadly up on health. I have minions down in terms of field position, although they're very easy to get rid of, those little Onyxian whelps there. Life tapping, his hand is getting quite full. If he is playing a Handlock style, we might see a giant come out sometime soon. And as we wait for our opponent to make... Oh, he's tapped on the table. Now that either means he's got no play or he's waiting to play something next go. Interesting. So this should be the stage where I can kind of get myself swinging in for the kill. Now, we need to calculate this carefully. Can I finish him off? Well, I've got 6, 7, 8. I can... Ooh, so close. Note that if I drop Grommash and then Whirlwind, I can buff Grommash to 10. But then I can do 16, 17, 18. I'm just that one short of an execute. I cannot quite finish him off this go, and that's because I actually used one of my attack last go. Any suggestions appreciated. Yeah, if you are not into Hearthstone at the moment and you're still tuning in, it's still great to have you here, regardless. Back to my original point. Because I took out that owl, I'm now just one short of that execute, but what I can do is I can lump a bit more pressure on. I can push into an Alexstrasza. Now what that lets me do, I can tap him for a couple of damage. I have the damage both in hand and on the table. I can finish him next go regardless, even before Grommash. So as opposed to maybe setting himself up, we can see the giant go down. I might expect Siphon Soul. Okay, he removes my ugly minion, but if he can't create a tank, you can see that I've just set myself up for the victory. So here is the time-old happy combo. You drop down Grommash, you then play your Cruel Taskmaster. The 1 damage buffs him up to 10 with his Enrage, and then gives him another 2. And there we go, there's the swing in for the well played, and we have a well played victory. Lovely stuff. If you've never seen Control Warrior before, Heroes of the Storm. Calls for League of Legends. We did some League of Legends. It's very hard. Well, I'm just not skilled enough, I'll be honest with you, in FailCraft style to commentate over League of Legends whilst playing it at the same time. I can do it with the slightly slower pace that Hearthstone provides us. can take your time, you can enjoy it. It's no problem at all. League of Legends, it's using too many of my brains at the same time to fully work. But it's all good. So if you've never seen a Control Warrior before, if you're new to this stream or new to the show, that is a real good example of how Control Warrior works. If you take a look at the deck list on the right, what did we do? In the early game, we kept him under control as much as possible. We were maybe hyper-aggressive with Slam and War Axe. We took some damage on our hero. We soaked that up early on in the early game. And the reason for that was because we kept him under control in the early game. In the mid game, we dropped Cairn Bloodhoof, you saw, who put him under pressure, got him on the back foot. Geddon kept him on the back foot, and then we were able to drop Alexstrasza to reduce his health, and then swing in with the Gromash and a Cruel Taskmaster combo. So that was a very, very nice just example of how this deck works, how the Control Warrior, and it's Kit Kat's Control Warrior as well, how that deck kind of works. Lots of chat about League of Legends. Glad to see we've got some League players there. Maybe on Friday we'll have a night off and play some League. Or we can always do that tomorrow. I am easy. Am I in the alpha? I'm not in the alpha just yet, but I'm expecting to be the alpha either this week or next week. I think I'm going to get lucky with that. I just have this feeling. So very much looking forward to it. I've been trying to do some shoutcasting for those of you shouting out about Heroes of the Storm. Looks really, really good fun. It's Blizzard. I love Blizzard. Nothing else much to say. But we should definitely do some League. I generally tend to try and play ADC or support or jungle. I have not mastered the top lane and I feel very exposed in the mid. But I have to admit, because I've been doing Hearthstone Half Hour and similar, getting the YouTubing going, really not been in League for quite a few months, maybe a couple of months. So, however, for those of you League fans, the LCS is coming to the UK. The summer split is at Wembley. It's at Wembley this weekend. So there are some tickets offered to that. I could go if I wanted to, go and watch some League of Legends at Wembley. When I was at E3 last week, I managed to get an autographed little signed card from Cloud9 as well, which was cool. Meanwhile, coming back to Hearthstone, I've been playing a bit on autopilot. You can see that I've gone excessively aggressive, taking out that Huffer. There weren't really... Okay, there were some other options. Armor Smith, Annual Companion into a Huffer. He charged into me. I've taken 8 damage from that Huffer by attacking him. And we can see the nice little Hunter combo. He's thrown down this Buzzard, I would probably say, a little bit early. Reason for that, he's not going to make the most of it in terms of drawing cards. It gives me some options. No, in fact, it doesn't give me any options. I can't even kill it this go. I have to say that this game is looking a little bit dangerous. Let's just take a quick look back. Okay, so a better play here might have been tapping Huffer with my Armor Smith potentially. I wouldn't have stopped the Starving Buzzard and Boar. 2 Starving Buzzards. Oof. If he starts throwing down beasts, he's going to set himself up very, very quickly. Oh, this is getting ugly quick. This is, for you guys, you remember we were playing Hunter on Monday. This is being on the receiving end of a Hunter. Now, do I have options? I do. Let's just think this through. Right. First up, I've got a Cleave. I hope this takes his... Okay, right, that's helped. But he's still got this on the table. He's still just going to keep drawing cards. Now, you've noticed that until I can drop Baron Geddon next turn, I've got no answer to these small drops. I need my Whirlwinds. Whirlwinds would be cutting this deck apart, but you can also see that because he's not had quite enough cards on the table at the same time, I've not been able to play Cleaves when I wanted to either. Cleave and Whirlwind should be tearing this apart, but know that Cleave is only any good if you've got 2 or more opponent minions on the table. If my opponent only has 1 minion on the table, Cleave is absolutely useless. That is why higher level kind of decks, or people that are a bit more used to this kind of thing, will play less Cleave. Ugly, horrible. Have you just seen that the amount of cards, this is called cycling. Our opponent with his Buzzard and his minions are just cycling through very, very nicely. Righty then. I can't wipe all of these in one go. What I can do with my mana, by not throwing down Geddon, firstly I can draw a card. Shield Slam, good. that means that I have enough options to remove everything. Let's slam those 2 off the table. And last but not least, this is a bit excessive, but I'm really just making up for lost time. I need to get that buzzard off the table and start putting some pressure down. So we're quite late in the game. I've not kept the hunter under control. He has drawn a lot of cards. As soon as I start throwing loads of minions out, he will be in a good position to put pressure down. Even at turn 8, it's a little bit late to start thinking about playing Cairn Bloodhoof. Ooh, and there we go, Houndmaster taunting up some dangerous minions. I've got options here. What can I do? Well, I can throw down Cairn. I could just brawl to try and reset the table. Remember that I've got 2 brawls. This is a risk. I need to... Oh, that was best. Now remember, actually I learnt this from you guys in the stream. Whatever goes into the brawl last will survive. So, that croc, the one card I wanted to get rid of, is the one... is the one that was left over. Ooh, and this is getting ugly. We can see the Savannah Highmane of Death Rattle summoning 2 hyenas. I am in trouble here. Now you can notice that our hunter has kept me under control really, and then he's coming out with all of his strong cards. This may well be a loss for Team FailCraft. But let's see what we can do. Okay, Geddon may... If I'd thrown that down 1 turn before, it may have helped me a little. The Brawl, I think, was not perhaps the best option. I can start making things awkward for my opponent. I've got my Executes. You notice that if I just had a Whirlwind, I don't think I've seen a Whirlwind all game. And that is caused me a few problems. Now, throwing down a Highmane will give me equal options. Cairn Bloodhoof doesn't necessarily have to be traded away. Ragnaros, he would probably just choose to try and trade. This is probably not the optimal play. A Faceless Manipulator to... Let's see what we can remove. Okay, that, just notice, drops a couple of hyenas. He can charge all of these in. I've offered him basically a straight up trade. Because he is hunting, he's probably just, look, I'm on 18 health. What he will probably do is just attack me. He can arrow up, he can unleash the hounds. Deadly Shot, very nice. 3 mana has got rid of my Raggy, and he needs to put some pressure on. But what can I do? Well, I can get in. I can Faceless Manipulator, another Houndmaster. This is probably looking, sadly, like a loss. Now, why was this a loss? I think it's worth having a look at that. Aside me not concentrating a little in the early game, not had the best run-of-the-mill luck of the draw a little bit. But let us also take into account what else. I've got 6 health. I don't think there's a way that I can pull this out unless I top decked a Brawl. So first up I'm going to slam, because I need the card draw. The Acolyte of Pain is not going to help. I can execute one of those off the table. The Geddon will then of course do 2 damage to me, remember. So I can remove 2. This is all gone, all gone. Okay, we are all gone. Right, in the interest of being rapid, I'm just going to say well played. Let's tap on the desk and get another one going. Oh, up 1, down 1. That's the way of things. Okie dokie. To keep us within our half hour, let us charge into 1/3 game. So the reason you might have noticed there, one thing I was a little bit hamstrung by was the cleaves. I think that's a good thing to call out. Now, if your opponent's only got 1 minion on the table, remember that cleave can only start working if there are 2. So my cleaves, I had cleaves sitting in my hand, I had minions that needed getting rid of from the table, but there was not much I could do. And as a result, some decks will probably drop a cleave. They'll go with 1 cleave rather than 2. If you're playing against something like Zoo, or something that really swarms, Zoo Warlock, where your opponent is just trying to throw, there's always going to be a lot of opposing minions on the table, then cleave is excellent. However, against hunters, or this new hunter style where they're kind of controlling the amount of minions they have on the table a little bit more, it really does slow you down. And as you saw there, I had useless cards in my hand. I was really wanting Whirlwinds, or something that would let me do direct damage rather than those. Wild Growth. Okay, so in our Druid, we played a Warlock, played a Hunter, now we've got a Druid. So this is a nice little 3-piece in terms of all of the different decks that we're seeing. Now you noticed that our Druid friend there has Wild Growth, gained a crystal. He is therefore probably ramping, so Ramp Druid is a deck type that we've covered before on the Hearthstone Half Hour. What does the Ramp Druid do? Long story short, what it does is basically throw out wild growths. There's also innovates, similar things that let them just get big ugly cards down in the game very, very early. What can I do here? Well, options abound. I can yeah, you know what, here's a way I can draw a card. I can armour up a little bit as well. Ooh, look at that, take some damage, armour up a bit more. Now an option here, I could Fury War Axe, but am I going to attack him with the axe? No, I want to keep that to control. Could he throw down an ooze and remove it? Yes. So, simple decision there. Just going to throw some armour on. Loving the League of Legends and similar chat. I'm looking forward to Heroes of the Storm, it has to be said. Points in the chat, is it a slightly dumbed down version? I think it could just sort of be, it's going to be a bit of a different game, but you could call Hearthstone, in some ways, a bit of a simplified card game. So, I love it. I played more complicated games, or more sort of weird games as well, so I'm not going to have a go at it, but it's good fun. Shield Slam, this is what this card is made for. I've got my armour. Goodbye. Goodbye to your horrible tank. Goodbye. Now, if I was feeling really aggressive, I could throw out a Whirlwind, draw another card, stick a couple more armour on, be feeling good. Yeah, you know what, why not? It's Christmas. Now, that combo, and if I'd had that on the table, notice that not only have I drawn a card, but because I've damaged 2 of my own minions, I trigger 2 more armour from the Armour Smith. Now, the Armour Smith, ideally, you have behind something tanky or big, and it doesn't get killed at all. It just sits there and armours you up all of the day and all of the night. But it's gone. But even though it's gone, you've noticed I've stacked up a lot of armour very quick. Wrath, if he goes for the 3, which he has done, he does not get the card draw. He removes that minion. Maybe a little bit of a mistake. I don't know. Okay, next up, well, I've got 2 of my axes in my hand. I've got plenty of armour. I'm going to get a little bit aggressive. Let's smack him in the face. Reasons for that, I'm holding 2 axes, and I've got Gorehowl. So, really, there's no reason for me to be sitting on weapons for control. We're getting into the late game. He's, of course, used that wild growth. He's ramped up ahead of me, even though he started playing second. And there goes his Ancient of Law. I would imagine he is going to draw through 2 cards. Lovely. Going to ponder his hand a little bit. Oh, let's give him a greetings as well. Greetings to you. And let's shake out the rug. And light a fire. Oh, we've got a mate spam back and forth. So, options. Well, whenever a minion takes damage, I can gain an attack. I don't really want to sacrifice my Frothing Berserker at this point. I could. I may as well use the last 3 there. Let's throw on some armour. Tap him for some damage. That will power me up 1. I'll throw down an Execute. Let's get off the table. Execute a little bit excessive. Generally because a Ramp Druid could be throwing out Ancients of War. There's the swipe. I know that one of those is now gone. Innovates. Puts him up to 6 mana. What's going to go down for 6 mana? There's the Druid of the Claw for 5. And he's gone, interestingly, for the attack form. 8, and what can I do with 8? Well, we've got an option. I'm probably just going to go for the straight up control. Let's get that off the table while I can. Not nice to take the damage, but I have Alexstrasza. So, Alexstrasza, the use in this deck, you can heal yourself up if you're in trouble. You can also drop your opponent's health right on down. This is why I should have saved Execute. There goes the Ironbark Protector. I can offer him a straight up trade. I'm not going to go all out to remove that on this turn. Instead, I'm just going to threaten. Go, hi pal, you've got 15 health. Now, if he was sensible or pulls more tanks, he'll probably just ignore this or find another way of removing it. And there is his other way of removing it. He may trade. And then, oh, interestingly, he's gone tanky, removed, stayed alive, fireball in my face. This is not quite so happy. Right, so options. Now I can brawl. if I do brawl, then... Okay. I'm going to go for a risk. This is a silly play. 1, 2... Oh, Ragnaros remains. Silly play. The cleave would have let me do a straight up removal. I'll take another 8 from Raggy next go. I would not follow that example, ladies and gentlemen. That was somewhat silly. Let's see what happens next. So, optimal play there, probably throw down a cleave, throw out my Armour Smith, then brawl, and with that tank, this is going to be a win. Not the finest control warrior play here. Oh, fireball in my face. Slam. Okay, we've got some options, right? Let's slam. Baron Geddon, he's not going to help me much, is he? Let's have a think. Well, I can very aggressively remove this Sunwalker. Geddon will do some other stuff. Raggy, throwing down minions is probably my key to survival here. That will kill me. It'll take me next go. 2 aggro. Bad brawl. It was a bad brawl. This is the kind of video when I put on YouTube, people will be like, oh, why did you brawl? You're so silly. To which my answer will simply be, I was having fun. Do not judge me. Right, so let's have a think. Well, I can throw down Geddon. Cleveland Whirlwind isn't really going to... It's a pondering sound, just in case you're wondering. I cannot even throw down 2 super mega raw. Let's do something crazy. I think this is a loss, but you know what? Why not? Whoa! Does he? Can he charge in? Can he charge in for 5? Will his Ragnaros kill my Baron Geddon? So many questions. And that is why, my friends, the Faceless Manipulator is awesome. Look at that. I'm pretty much screwed. Bye! Watch what happens. There's a slight lag, of course, remember, between stream and me speaking and what you actually see. Well, there we go, that was a perfect couple up, couple down. I'm still ranked 13. Such is the way of things. So, 3 games there. We managed to sneak in 3 games in half an hour. Probably because 2 of those were very fast losses, but there you go. So that is tonight's cheeky Hearthstone half hour where we've played a bit of Control Warrior. I'm just going to put up the deck list so we can see, well, what did we sort of learn? What did we see there? Well, we had 3. We had a pretty standard Hunter deck coming out with Unleash the Hounds, a probably mid-range Hunter. How did he win? Well, having 2 cleave in this deck list was actually a little bit of an issue for us. We could not remove the opponent's Starving Buzzards and similar draw power cards. If you tuned in with us on Monday to take a look at Hunter in Season 3, we've just seen it from the other way around. Those cleaves did not let us remove Hunter minions when we really needed to. So, an interesting example of how, you know, just maybe 1 or 2 cards can make the difference in certain matchups. Of course, you can't forecast every matchup you're going to have, so all you can do is build a deck and see how it goes, maybe tweak it. So that was fun. The Warlock, the Handlock, I don't think it was a full-on Handlock. We did see him trying to throw out his giants and stuff, so he either had not a particularly great draw, because we didn't see him getting his giants down really early. We did not see him, I believe, making any tanks, no Sun Fury Protector, no Defender of Argus, nothing to take his big minions and making them big walls that I couldn't get by. So the Warlock matchup actually went alright for us, and our cards came out pretty well as well. That was all good fun. And then last but not least, that slightly awkward last Druid matchup. That was a Ramp Druid. If you have not seen a Ramp Druid before, go check out previous episodes of Hearthstone Half Hour. I will go link some stuff up so you guys can have a look. But the Ramp Druid, what that involves is using Wild Growth, Innovate and such things. Basically having more mana sooner in the game than you should to play bigger, more expensive, scarier cards earlier in the game than you should. That is what a Ramp Druid is, and that's what he kind of tried to do. But again, what was the challenge there? A silly brawl. One thing, people talk about tilting in terms of poker, in terms of card games. When you start losing and then you start playing a little bit aggressive, and then your aggression means that you make more mistakes. So in that sense, you know, I just felt like brawling. What I probably should have done in that situation was throw down the cleave first. That would have definitely removed, I believe, the Ancient Watcher. That would have definitely removed his tank. And then I could have thrown down my Armor Smith, and then it would have been still a 50-50 as to whether my Armor Smith, I believe, that I dropped, or his Ragnaros went off the table. But, you know, it's a card game. RNGesus is a certain factor. You know, the luck of the coin and the luck of the draw always comes up in card games. So, you know, if I was going to improve a play against that Druid in the last game, that's probably what I would have gone for. However, we did sort of struggle a bit in the early game as well, and we were probably a little hyper aggressive again when it came to sort of picking off some of his cards. When you play Control Warrior or any weapon wielding class, can be a Shaman, can be a Paladin. Similarly, remember that you are using your hero's health as a resource. If you get good table position, if you get some kind of advantage from sacrificing a bit of your health, then that's worth doing. But it's calculating when you should do that, and when perhaps you overreach, can you heal that health back up? Warriors can put on armour, but they can't heal back the health. Paladins can heal back the health. Druids also can heal back the health. Priests, etc., etc., and so on and so forth. So you can mix it up, you can see what you fancy, all that kind of stuff. But 3 different decks, we saw how our Control Warrior worked, and I may just, let's see what else we got here. Have we got a couple of different variations? Or have I just got shinies? Just before we sign off, I'm going to give you a few different variations of the warrior. Oh, the tiling! The absolute massive tiling. And let's throw down Adactor's Weapon Warrior as well, just for good fun. Ooh, let's try and drop that on top. There you go, there's 4 different warriors. So from our initial warrior, I'm going to dump over on the side here. Let's have another look at these. So from the warrior that we're playing, you can kind of mix it up between a few different other things. You can see here I had 2 cleaves. You can see that I've got a version here that only has 1 cleave. These are control, by the way, these 2 in the middle, and the third is just a weapons aggressive deck. So 2 cleave, you can see this version I only run with 1, the Kit Kat sort of newer version, as it were. So reasons for that, as we discussed against the Hunter, you kind of struggle a little bit if you don't have enough minions on the table, so you drop a cleave there. Now if we go into the middle of the deck, what do we have? You can see the Big Game Hunter comes in for removing big minions. If I had a Big Game Hunter in that last game, for example, I could have taken out the Ragnaros if I'd drawn it, for example, or the Ancient of War. Big Game Hunter, of course, removes as a battle cry any minion with 7 or more attack, I believe, something like that. What else do we have? Well, you can see difference here. 2 Cochron Elite. Now that is 4 attack, 3 health, and has charge. So you can see that having dropped the cleave, and of course there's 1 less brawl in this deck as well. There's no brawl in there actually. Interesting. I need to run this one again. But with no brawl, what Kit Kats was doing with his deck was then giving himself more mid-game options. You can see he's got 2 Azure Drakes in there as well. That gives you additional spell power. And the 1 spell power, of course, complements your cleave, slam, you know, all of the spells that you have, of course, as a warrior. And then, of course, when you drop the Azure Drake, you draw a card. So the card draw is good too. The Black Knight as well lets you stampede through people's taunts. So Kit Kats is control. It gives you the early game control, but sacrifices control in terms of brawl and cleave for a lot more mid-game options. So you can see 2 control decks, 2 very different styles of play. Brawl can save you if you've got a massive swarm on the board, but if you have more minion control in the mid game, then you might be able to put some more pressure on as well. And then you can see that, you know, Cairn has dropped. There's a bit more variety in the late game. So let's look at this other variety. What are the differences here? Well, I've got the cleave, so we've just got the 1 brawl, and you can see that instead there's just a little change. 1 more Frothing Berserker and the Big Game Hunter are the 2 main changes in this deck. So what does that mean? It gives you the removal, and it's sort of I'd probably say if we rank them in terms of extreme play, here's a hyper safe version against aggro. Here is a sort of medium version, and here is I don't really care too much about aggro, I'm just going to be a boss and outplay it completely with loads of mid-game options. And then the last option is a weapons deck. Now this weapons deck is not control whatsoever. You can see what we do here is throw down weapons, we get very aggressive in the early game, just an entirely different style of warrior. This is a cheaper deck in terms of, you can see that it's got 1 legendary in, it's got a couple of rares in. Which of these decks are F2P? Final quick question from the chat. The answer is none of them are 100% F2P, but what I will do now is link in the chat a very, very good sort of free-to-play, a low-budget control deck. Let's try and find a mid-budget control deck as well. Have a little look at this one. Cool. So, just to finish up, we had a look at the ladder at rank 13. We had a look at Control Warrior, if you're not familiar with that before. And then last but not least, we ran through 3 games, 3 different classes. Sadly, 1 wins, 2 losses. I was too aggressive in the last 2 games, but a sucky draw kind of in the second game, and then misplays in the second and third. So, having had a look at those misplays, had a look at the different deck types we played. We had Ramp Druid, we had a standard sort of Rushy Hunter, and then we had what was probably a Handlock Warrior, but didn't come out. So we learnt a bit about different decks that we played against, and we've also seen, just as a little thought to finish up on, we might continue this tomorrow in sort of Tactics Thursday, or if we don't play League of Legends tomorrow, everyone seems to want to play League, which is great. Happy to get back into that. Just a little bit about how very, very subtle changes in your deck. You can see that tops 4 or 5 cards change, but you've got a very safe version, a middle version, and an all-out weapony version. Really with just maybe 4 or 5 cards worth of change, and the style that you play will play as well. So although these are all kind of control, how you play can change with just a few cards. And how you change those cards and how you decide how to change those cards in your deck, you'll learn with sort of experience and just playing. You know, it's the meta game, it's the kinds of decks that you play, the styles that you play against. So let us... Oh, I've got rid of the end screen. Fantastic. I've got too many decks of cards up as well. End screen. Fabulous. So thanks so much for tuning in. FailCraft Casts I have been having. We try and stream live 5 nights a week. That's going to be around about 7 PM to 8 PM UK time, Monday through Friday. So where can you find us? Quick sign off. Twitter at FailCraft Casts. Drop us a tweet whenever. We'd love to hear from you. Whatever time it is, we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. If you've tuned in live, youtube.com/FailCraftCasts is the archive. You've got loads more Hearthstone on there, League of Legends, StarCraft, bunch of other things as well. So do have a look at that. See what you think. Let me know. Good, bad, other games you think we should do. Love to hear your suggestions. Twitch, if you found this somewhere static, this is actually live. Twitch.tv/FailCraftCast. You can hit subscribe on there, you can get a free email, a free account, you can know when we're going live. We will always try and tweet maybe half an hour to an hour, as far in advance as possible on the day that we're going to stream, so you can know how many hours time, how many minutes time we're going to be streaming in, just so you can tune in if you don't see your email or similar. And last but not least, www.failcraft.org is the website. We've been away at E3, so we need to get updated, we need to get some of our videos caught up there, but you will always find videos there. There will be things like articles, blogs, some photos from E3 I've put up, you know, and on our Instagram as well, so go and have a look there, see some E3 goodness. And then new player links and resources for all the games we cover. I need to flesh out the Hearthstone section. I know there's a StarCraft section up there. I'll build up League of Legends, and hopefully when we're in Heroes of the Storm, I will start running some Heroes of the Storm as well. A big shout out to you folks who are in live. Legion, Lud, Tilly, great to see you, and very much hope again to see you soon. So thanks very much for tuning in. Love it, or if you hate it, just feedback. I love constructive criticism. You can say I'm awful, that's absolutely fine, but just tell me how I can improve. Or if you like it and you share it with some people who might like it too, again, would really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, great to see you as always, and